first of our series of Facebook Live videos. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you're seeing this later, well, thanks so much for watching. And we decided to do a series of videos entitled Victorians, Weird Like Us. So if you like it, please give us a react down below or leave a comment about something else you'd like us to talk about instead. So I really started thinking about this because there's one thing that always gets to me around Christmas time. And it's not that Santa is all-knowing and could have stepped in at any point to stop Rudolph from being bullied, or wondering about who was the first person to scoop out pumpkin guts and make a pie out of them. Instead, I'm just really curious as to why we have ghost stories around Christmas time, particularly Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And if you've ever read the book, or you haven't, it's a really weird story. I got an illustration from one of the publications, but it has ghosts, terminally ill children, extreme poverty, and dead best friends. It's bleak. And if you don't know the plot, our old miser here, Ebenezer Scrooge, this is where we get the term Scrooge from. He is basically making his employees, neighbors, and everyone's lives miserable around Christmas time. So the night before Christmas, instead of being visited by Santa, he's visited by a series of ghosts, particularly the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. And through these interventions, Scrooge wakes up a changed man. So the book was first published in 1843, and it sold out within 6 weeks. And it spawned a number of spin-offs, a number of later adaptations. My favorite is the one starring the Muppets. But to truly understand this tradition and how we got ghosts at Christmas time, we have to go way far back, before recorded history even began. So those of us in Michigan, we know this time of year, it gets dark and it gets cold. And the days continue to get less and less light in them until we hit the solstice, which is tomorrow. So it'll start getting light again. And then after solstice, we get more and more daylight. So not only was the vegetation and the crops around these individuals failing and dying, so was the year. And as the year started dying, the veil between the two worlds appeared to grow thinner as well, allowing spirits on the other side to interact with humans in our realm. So eventually, these traditions and these ghost stories migrated more towards the celebration of Samhain, which became our modern culture's Halloween. But some vestiges of this tradition of telling ghost stories during wintertime, particularly around the solstice, remained. In the Middle Ages in England, we have records of peasants telling each other ghost stories around Christmas, which tells us two things. Ghost stories in winter had not only survived the shift to Christianity, but they had become associated with Christmas time instead of the solstice. But that all changed around the time of the Christian Reformation, when a lot of Protestant groups decided to break with Catholicism in a real bad way. Well, not bad way as in bad, but you know, in a bad way. And that was to break with the celebrations of the holidays and feast days. And Christmas was one of these. So we all know the Pilgrims that landed at Plymouth Rock were Puritans. And they did not like Christmas at all. They associated it with decadence, drunkenness, and lawlessness. So no Pilgrim celebrated Christmas. In fact, it wasn't until 1856 that Christmas became a public holiday in Massachusetts. So it took a while for Christmas to catch on again, particularly in the New World. But entered the Victorians, who let's just say this, they were deeply, deeply weird, just to start off with. So the Victorian period is the reign of Queen Victoria, Queen of England, Empress of the British Empire, and her reign lasted from 1837 to 1901. So that's the time period we're talking about. And yeah, things were just weird. Like, you think kids today with their surrealist memes are really out there? They have nothing at all on Beat Parrot, my favorite Victorian surrealist meme. You think the proliferation of podcasts and TV shows about murder is troubling? The Victorians invented being obsessed with murder and loved nothing more than naming racehorses and hunting dogs after murderers. So, pretty weird. But the ghost story really caught on with the Victorians in large part because death was such a huge part of their world. Due to increased industrialization, more and more people were leaving the countryside to move to cities for factory work, which led to the increase of housing that was cheaply made, poor sanitation, and people were basically cheek to jowl in these, what we would call tenement buildings, which led to mass outbreaks of disease. So you had smallpox, tuberculosis, all those sort of things just sweeping through these areas. And up until the 1880s, the theory of miasma, or that disease was caused by bad air, made it so that we couldn't contain disease outbreaks or treat them when they happened. We basically had to wait for the disease to burn itself out and leave troves of dead bodies in its wake. But it wasn't just the poor or the working class that faced death on a daily basis. Mortality rates for women in childbirth and their children were extremely high. And the lack of a social safety net or workers' compensation meant that you were just one injury or the fatality of the family's breadwinner away from living in the streets. Basically, the only safety net was the workhouse. And the fact that most people would prefer to live on the street than go to the workhouse should tell you everything you need to know about the Victorian workhouse. We'll get to the ghost stories. But it wasn't all just a bleak house. Charles Dickens puns, bleak house. The literacy rate was also increasing during this time, which meant that there was a proliferation of publications aimed towards just about every segment of the population, whether you were a captain of industry, a middle-class housewife, a child who just really loved pirates, or, a socialist union organizer. Pretty much all your standard demographics, right? So that led to more and more demand for fun things to read. And the traditions of Christmas were also reignited during the reign of Queen Victoria, particularly when it came to the Christmas tree. So this image here, and this was published in 1848, and it basically went viral. They were the Kim Kardashian and Kanye West of their time. Even if you pretended you didn't know who they were, you knew, and you saw images of them. And Prince Albert was from Germany, and the tradition of the Christmas tree was a German tradition. We have evidence of German immigrants celebrating Christmas with a Christmas tree in the United States starting around the 1820s, but it was largely only isolated to German communities. But after Queen Victoria and Prince Albert embraced this tradition and this image was published, it went viral and reignited this image of Christmas as a family time, a time to get together, and it also increased demand for Christmas trees on both sides of the pond, no matter what your ethnic or religious background was, really. Everyone wanted a Christmas tree. So, re-entered the Victorian ghost story. And of course, most popular was A Christmas Carol. Again, published written in 6 weeks, and it sold out in about 3 or 4 weeks, its first printing. So it was huge. And the gas lamps of the Victorian period really lent to this great aura when telling ghost stories too. You got this flickering lights effect, and also if you had a poorly constructed gas lamp, unlit fumes would escape from it. You'd breathe them in, and you'd be able to see some truly strange and amazing things. But around 1900s, the ghost story at Christmas time largely died out again. And was it because, electric lighting killed the mood? Was it that increased sanitation and better medicine made it possible for death to no longer be an intimate acquaintance for most people? Or was it just because A Christmas Carol was all the ghost story we'll ever need? We just don't know. But we still have, again, A Christmas Carol and a few other ghost stories in this tradition. And one of those we recently got at the museum, and we're really excited about this. A guy renovating his house found this in a wall. And what better place to leave a ghost story than entombed in a wall? And it's in pretty rough shape, as you might expect for something found in a wall. It's missing its cover and the back pages, but thanks to the magic of the internet, someone has digitized this, and you can read to the end if you'd like. Now, I would recommend putting Beyond the End, A Ghost Year, on your 2019 reading list, because it's pretty badly written, even for Victorian melodrama. And the Victorians love them some melodrama. You think Grey's Anatomy is dramatic? Please, the Victorians would be all about the telenovela today. And just for fun, because it's the holiday season, I would like to do a dramatic reading of part of Chapter 1 of Beyond the End, A Ghost Year by Charles M. Boutel. So if you're here for factual information, now's the time to head out. But if you're here for dramatic readings, we got you. So this is Chapter 1. Our narrator is not even a ghost yet, and it's still so dramatic. So I hope you'll enjoy this. But that is only hope. The past was. The present is. The future? The future. Oh God, this is a world in which men die. My safe door is open. I could reach out my hand and close it. 1 second of time, 100th part of the effort I could exert, and the thing would be done. And yet, I do not do it. And yet, another night, I would. Though a fear of what may happen if I leave it open seems to smite hard upon my brain and chill my very heart tonight, while another night I should, most likely, not think of it at all. There isn't much of value, except my row of diaries. There are 20 of them. I wrote the first of them during the year in which I was 16, and now I am more than 36. Once a year, one the next year, one the year after that. That is the way it has gone through all the years, never more and never less, until now. Sometimes I have had to write later than usual, more pages than usual, to finish the book of the year, putting on record some of my hopes and plans as the night of the old year turns towards the dawning of the new. But this time, it is different. Last night, I crowded onto the last page of the volume, which bears the number 1887, the last sentence it would hold. And then, even then, I left unsaid some things I could have wished I might have written. So tonight, I'm writing the end of the year in the beginning of the book of another. Maybe it is the fact alone which makes my soul uneasy. Do you, fair pages of my secret record, of my secret thoughts and feelings, my aspirations and my deeds, or you, unknown and unguessed stranger, to whom, in the marvelous workings of God's providence, the reading of this book may sometime and somehow come? Do you think there could possibly be aught of evil omen in this? I do not. But though, and that is the most dramatic opening I think I've ever read in a book, and it's about closing a safe door, so that's great. So thank you so much for tuning in on our first Facebook Live video. Again, if you like what you saw, leave us a react. Otherwise, write us a comment. Tell us what you'd rather we were talking about instead. And from us here at the museum, all of our staff, volunteers, thank you so much for being with us this year, donating, interacting with us on social media, coming in to visit us. We really appreciate it, and we are looking so forward to serving you further in the next year. And the very happiest of holidays to you and yours. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.